All right, it all starts here, folks. Grizzly Bears and Savannah Lions. So here we are doing the Noob series, and the first card we're going to look at is Grizzly Bears. And what we're going to do is understand the very basics from the ground up of analyzing Magic cards, and the easiest here is probably going to be creatures. It's just a basic equation for power and toughness, and so we're going to go through everything, and hopefully it's going to be quick, and hopefully you'll learn a lot. So, Grizzly Bears has a converted mana cost of 2, 1 colorless and 1 green. Its power and toughness is 2/2. So, all we need to worry about is just its power and toughness. And the equation for power and toughness is you add them together, divided by 2 rounded down, and that is the casting cost of that power and toughness. And if you add them together, that's also I guess for Magic the Gathering, I'm going to start calling that set cost. So the set cost of power and toughness to give to a creature is just its power and toughness added together. So Grizzly Bears is a 4 set cost card. And because it's 2/2, you add those together, divided by 2, you don't really need to round down, it's just 2. So to give a creature 2/2 is a converted mana cost of 2. And it is a more advanced discussion to talk about colored mana costs, but for the purposes of introduction, it doesn't really matter. What we're mostly focused on is just the converted mana cost. And colors can matter in some cases. It can be, just a kind of like a half step up or down, or it can serve as a whole step, but they try to regulate the power by making it multiple, like more than 2 colored mana costs for a card. But really what you're focused on is just the converted mana cost. And from here we can start to talk about its power level. So because its casting cost reflects the balanced cost for what this card has, which is only power and toughness, that means that it's balanced. Its converted mana cost is 2, and it has a power and toughness 2/2, which costs a converted mana cost of 2. So Grizzly Bears is balanced, and that means its power level is 0. It has a power level of 0. Power level is the relative difference between the cost that a card has and the cost of what it does. So Grizzly Bears is perfectly balanced between what it costs and what it does. It is a 2/2 for 2. That is perfectly balanced. So if it was a 3/3 for 2, then it would be power level 1. Because it would have a balanced converted mana cost of 3 if it was 3/3, but if it only costed 2, then it would be 1 undercosted. So it would have a power level of 1. If Grizzly Bears was a 1/1 for 2 mana, then it would be a power level of -1, because then it would be 1 overcosted, because a 1/1 should only cost 1 mana. But if it costed 2, then it would be 1 overcosted. That would be a power level of -1. So, next, let's talk about Savannah Lions. Savannah Lions has a converted mana cost of 1. It is just 1 white mana, and it is a 2/1 creature. So, power 2, toughness 1. And to find out what its converted mana cost should be, we add power and toughness together, divided by 2 rounded down, and that gives us 1. And Savannah Lions doesn't have any other abilities. It's just power and toughness, so that's all we need to worry about, just like Grizzly Bears. And it looks like Savannah Lions has a cost of 1, so this is balanced. The difference is Savannah Lions has a set cost of 3. And here is kind of the beginning discussion, continuing on from the open letter, about how Wizards of the Coast needs to approach card design in terms of balance. And to eliminate power creep, they need to set a standard set cost for every set that they release and keep that the same. So they only spend a certain number of points per set. So there's the exact same amount of power in every set. And so long as all the cards are costed correctly, then the power level will be balanced. And that's just kind of how that works. But Savannah Lions has a set cost of 3 because you add 2 and 1 together. And again, converted mana cost of 1. So Savannah Lions has a power level of 0, just like Grizzly Bears. These are 2 balanced creatures. Savannah Lions just happens to be a little above the curve in terms of set cost. So that is how that works. So that's the basics for power and toughness. And moving forward with all the other calculations that you might do, that's the basis for anything that's permanent. So all creatures follow this calculation for power and toughness. All counters follow this. That's how I costed out the Harmonious Archon ability. But then this is also kind of the calculation that you use for until end of turn abilities in the instance of things like Giant Growth or other instant buffs, where you're getting the value of 3 converted mana cost, but it's only until end of turn, and that costs 1. But that's kind of a very specific instance. That's kind of a niche thing there. It also does factor into like until end of turn effects that are activated abilities, and you may be tempted to analyze each and every increment of power and toughness as a separate cost, but what's actually going on is that they're just better and worse versions of the same cost ability. So if something gives, if you can, was it Fire Breath or something on like Shivan Dragon, you may be paying, is it 1 or 2 for +1/+0 until end of turn, but it would cost the exact same to be +1/+1 until end of turn, because it's a minimum of 1. So if you are, so it's attack, defense, or I keep saying that, power and toughness divided by 2 rounded down, but it's to a minimum of 1. So +1/+0 or +0/+1 still costs 1, even though it's kind of like under curve, let's say. But that is still the same calculation. So just kind of be aware of that. And that is the beginning of a very long discussion on the non-equivalency of costs, where, again, 1 mana does a lot of things in this game. Not all of them are equivalent. So sometimes it's just important to know that, where you may be looking at a card and analyzing it, and you may understand that it's just a strictly worse version, but technically it is still balanced. Or, maybe it's not, whether it is or not, but you still cost it out the same. So that is kind of the conclusion there for the basics on creatures. All we really care about is power and toughness right now. So we'll get to abilities later and move on to spells. If you haven't seen the Giant Growth video with the rest of the boon cycle there, minus Salve and Ancestral Recall, go check out that video. And I'll continue on with this series. This is great. I like this format. It's easy to do, and hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening, watching.